Welcome back to the Prime Focus Goalkeeping channel. I'm your host, Brandon Miller, and today we're going to talk about 3 key tips for goalkeeper communication. These are the best tips for all goalkeepers so they can effectively communicate with their defense and with their team in order for them to prevent danger, in order for them to get the response that they need to move players into positions. A lot of times goalkeeper communication is hard to learn because goalkeepers don't know exactly what to say. They don't exactly know how to say it. They're not sure how to communicate with their teammates. And that leads to a lot of gaps, a lot of opportunities that may be prevented if we just communicate with our team effectively. First one we're gonna talk about is being loud. You think about in a game, especially we'll think about youth soccer. A lot of times youth soccer, there's other games going on the field besides you. There's another group of players on the field who are yelling. There's parents on the sideline. It can be pretty loud. Well, all the time you need to be loud enough to be able to communicate with your winger who may be 40 yards away, right? Your outside back who's 25 yards away over there and another outside back who's over there. You've got to be loud enough so that your team can hear exactly what you're saying. You've got to be able to get over the noise that's coming from outside sources or on the field or your coach yelling. You've got to be able to communicate loud enough so that your team can hear you. So that's the first tip. Be loud, project your voice. A lot of goalkeepers tend to be timid sometimes because they're unsure about what they're saying. Even if you're saying the wrong thing, you gotta be able to be loud enough so people can hear you. The second tip, we talk about being loud, but you gotta be specific. You wanna be specific with what you're saying and not just shouting random things to your players or they get confused. Like we just talked about being wrong, right? We don't want to be wrong when we're goalkeepers because being wrong often leads to goals. Be very specific with what you're saying. And when we talk about specificity, we're talking about, instead of saying step or no shot, we be specific with who we want to step, who we want to block the shot. If my center mid and my right mid and my left mid are in the middle of a striker who has the ball, they don't know who's supposed to step to the ball. And if the wrong person steps to the ball, that's when gaps start to open up. Right, so we want to be very specific. John, step to the ball. So they have an understanding of who needs to step and who needs to provide cover. Also, there's a little bit of accountability piece with it. Right, when things break down, say a goal goes in, if I say John step, John doesn't step to the ball and then the strike goes in the back of the net. Now I can have a conversation with John. Hey, I need you to step and cut off the side here, or I need you to get out quicker, as opposed to just shouting no shot. And when the ball goes in the back of the net, you're just looking around at everyone saying, why didn't anyone step? Well, it's because you weren't specific enough. If you can be specific, then there's accountability piece and people know when to step to the ball. You're looking in like the 78th minute of a game. Your teammates have been running. They're tired. Mentally, they're struggling. They're trying to figure out. They're just trying to get their own bodies going. You have to be that vocal piece to help them stay turned on and tuned in and get them to move as much as possible. Get them to move efficiently, not just people running around the field trying to cover other people's jobs, saying very specifically, John, I need you to step, right? And be very, very specific about what you're talking about. So that's tip number 2, be specific. Now let's talk about the third and final tip. It's be concise. What do I mean by be concise? Instead of putting out a full paragraph to your outside back about why they need to tuck in and where they need to tuck in, can we just be a little bit more concise and pull your outside back in 5 yards? Yep, Alan, step in 5 yards. Alan, tuck in. Right, be specific, be loud, but be concise. We don't want to overcomplicate things and we don't want to overload our teammates with a lot of information. They're already having to process a lot as the ball moves, as your opponents move. They've got to process that. You've got to process it as well, but you've got to put these players in position and do it as quickly as possible so that they're not being overloaded with information and they're not getting confused. And as well, the ball moves very quickly. We don't have a lot of time to be very verbose and say a lot of different words. Let's be very concise with what we're saying. John, step 5 yards. Back line, step up 5 yards. Be specific and be concise. Make it quick, but make it impactful. Make sure your team can understand. Let's go over the 3 tips again. Be loud. Be loud enough for your teammates to hear you. Be specific. Which teammate are you talking to? And be concise. Keep it short so that they can process it and move on to the next action. So those are the 3 tips that we have for goalkeeper communication. They're very important for you to organize your team and to eliminate a lot of the potential dangers. So if you have any questions on those, be sure to leave them in the comments section on our video on YouTube. Otherwise, until next time, stay focused.